Hi, I'm Roger Simmons with OrlandoSentinel.com, and we've assembled a group of our reporters to help answer some of the questions you may have about the deadly shooting at the Pulse nightclub. We've put a post on our Facebook page and also on Twitter soliciting questions. We have some during this live stream. You're also free to tweet some more questions you may have, and we'll compile those and try and answer them as well. But let me get with the group that we have here. First, over here next to me is Paul Brinkmann, who has been covering the shooting, as well as Stephanie Allen and Nassim Miller. And let me start off, guys, by just asking what you're working on so far today. So Paul, tell us what you're working on as far as coverage.
So I have a few things I'm following, but my main story today is we're doing a look at what kind of a bar Pulse was, and specifically what niche did it have in the community, what was it known for. What I'm hearing is they did a lot of fundraising there, a lot of fundraising events for the gay community organizations. The Latin night on Saturday was a big deal. So that's kind of my main story now. Also following up on, whether Omar Mateen had been seen there and what people are saying he was like too.
Right, doing that. Stephanie, I know you've been on this story a very long time, as a lot of us. What are you working on today?
Yeah, so I'm sort of covering everything, looking at the whole picture and sort of what are the new developments in the investigation, and looking at the neighborhood and really how this is affecting the people who live right there, just a couple blocks from where this happened, and sort of how this is affecting them.
Because that whole area, Orange Avenue, is still closed off at this point.
Still shut down, yeah.
Right, doing that. Nassim Miller, you were at the hospital today, I believe, correct?
Yeah, RMC had a press conference.
Right. Tell us about that.
So they brought their entire team that was involved in this on Sunday morning, including trauma surgeons and nurses and emergency room doctors and anesthesiologists who were in the operating room to talk about this. And also in the middle was one of the patients, Angel Cullen, and he's 26, and he was running out of the club when he was shot 3 times in the leg, and he was trampled on, and cops eventually dragged him out, and he was brought to the hospital. So the doctors talked about that night, and everybody said, it's just the sense that it was surreal, but everybody pulled through, and they really felt like they never were in want for anything because people kept providing and everybody collaborated to bring supplies when they were running short. And another thing that helped them was a lull between the first group of patients that were brought in and the time that the hostage situation was going on. So they managed to turn over some of the beds and then the second round. So it was kind of like, one of the doctors told me it felt like 2 mass casualty events.
Right. I guess fortunate to have that little bit of break so then they could
did
get
say
right
yes.
back to treating the patients.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to some of the questions we have. The first one we have is from Twitter, and the question was, why did it take police 3 hours to get to the scene? Stephanie?
Yeah, so it didn't take them 3 hours. They were there right when that first shot was fired. There was an extra duty officer working security at the club, and he was in full uniform and everything, and he heard that first shot ring out and went inside, immediately started exchanging gunfire with the shooter, and called for backup. And so within a couple minutes, a couple more officers were there and ran inside the club and exchanged more gunfire with this officer. And then that's when they realized that he was retreating back into the back of the club, and they needed to call in some backup. And then from there was sort of a lull, and that's when they ended up having to call in the SWAT team and the crisis negotiators, and that's that 3-hour time difference before they finally realized, okay, wait, danger is coming, we've got to get these people out of here, and they breached the wall and got in.
So they were on the scene.
So they were on scene the whole time. There wasn't any lag time between when they were called and when they got there. They were there the whole time, but they were just waiting to figure out when the best time was to go in and to get these people out.
Good. All right, thank you, Stephanie. All right, let's go to our next question, and that is, why was the shooter allowed to buy an automatic weapon if he was on an FBI watch list? And that's from Schrodinger's cat, I think, or actually I'll do the Shane McSee. It might be a little bit easier. And I don't know, Paul, I know you've been covering the shooter, and Stephanie, you're doing the law enforcement aspect of it. Whichever one of you wants to address that.
Yeah, I mean, he passed a full background check. The owner of the gun shop had a press conference yesterday, and he said he passed the full background check. He waited the 3 days from buying his pistol, and he had full security clearance for multiple security licenses. So he was, I mean, in the sense of the law, he was allowed to buy these guns. And And we did ask law enforcement and the FBI officials, why didn't a red flag pop up when he went to buy this gun? And they kind of don't have an exact answer for that. And the FBI director said yesterday that they're looking at their practices and what sort of happened here to maybe they should change something or if something did go wrong.
Yeah, Stephanie, my understanding, and maybe you can confirm this, watch list, he wasn't actually on the watch list when he went to buy the gun. He had been on the watch list for a while and then was taken off because they didn't charge him with a crime. And then the other thing is that apparently the watch list, even if you are on the watch list, that doesn't mean you can't buy a gun.
I don't know anything about that, but yeah, he was just investigated twice. And the first time it was a 10-month investigation. They looked into him. They questioned him twice and they found that he wasn't a threat. And so they dropped it. And then a couple months later, his name came up during another investigation. But nothing happened there either, and it was dropped. So yeah.
All right, so we created a question within our own question. We're going to find out, can you buy a gun if you're on the watch list? We'll get that information to you as well. All right, let's go to our next question, and it is from Stefani Taylor. Stefani 17, I think, if my eyes are okay. I know there are funds being raised for the victims and families. Is there also anything to help the club get back on its feet? And Paul, since you're covering the club aspect, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, last night at the vigil, the club owner, one of the club founders, said that they were going to rebuild Pulse, and there was even a chant about that for a little while during the vigil. And there are people who are saying that they want to donate money to Pulse. I don't believe that there is actually a specific channel for that now. I have actually reached out
for it, maybe,
right,
at this point?
Yeah, most of the fundraising efforts at this point are dedicated to the support organizations in the gay community that are responding to this and providing resources. And Equality Florida is the biggest one. The center here in Orlando on North Mills also has a GoFundMe page. There are a number of other GoFundMe pages set up out there that are, as we haven't actually checked them all out, but some of them are not from people that we know. The two big ones are Equality Florida and the center. As far as money for the club, I have actually asked that question of the PR person, the spokeswoman for the club, and I haven't gotten an answer yet.
Okay.
If people want to donate to that effort, I'm not sure what the channel is right now.
And we'll find out. We'll also post a list of all the reputable organizations and funds that are out there, because I know that in a lot of these situations, sometimes some of these funds pop up and you're not sure, is this a legitimate one, is this not? But we'll make sure we get that up on our website too to let people know. Let's go to our next question, and that is about, it's from John Catalay. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Hearing rumors that some of the 53 people who survived being shot have since died in the hospital. Can you confirm? And Nassim, I think you can probably address that pretty easily.
So what we are told is that as far as ORMC goes, 44 patients were taken there. 9 of those people died pretty much upon arrival because they had very severe injuries. And 21 are now on the floor and 6 are in the ICU, and the rest have been discharged. And the trauma surgeons today were very specific to say that nobody has died due to their injuries, but there is no telling that there won't be any more deaths, because some of the people, I think, are in grave condition.
Right. So they're not trying to hide any lists of people who may have died. They were able to say what that is, and that, granted, we may have more casualties, but right now they're not releasing or trying to hide any deaths at this point. It's just they don't have any at this point.
Not that I know of. And there are 11 more who were admitted to other hospitals, and they were a lot less critical. So, half of them have been discharged, and the other half, I believe 5 were at Florida Hospital yesterday when I checked, and today they had another press conference that our reporter is coming back from, so there may be fewer. But those people did not have life-threatening injuries because they were all treated at the level 1 trauma center.
All right, well, let's hope that the casualty list does not go up anymore from that. All right, we got one more from, I'm sorry, we're going to Facebook. All right, so these are some Facebook questions. And the first one is from, and again, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Najib Biehat. Why he used to go to this club for the last 3 years if he was a straight guy? Paul, and I think that's the big question people are asking, and maybe perhaps he wasn't a straight guy.
Well, that is the million-dollar question at this point, and he's dead, so it's hard to get into his mind about that. So we are talking to people who say they saw him at the bar 12 times over a period of years. What we're hearing is that, and these are eyewitnesses, no officials have confirmed that yet. The police told us they don't have any information about that. But we've heard from more than one person, 4 people at this point on the record, that they saw him there regularly. There are also reports emerging from other media who are talking to people that are saying the same thing, and some of them go back to when he was in high school. So the pattern doesn't seem to fit a person who was only going there to scope out a target. That is possible that he might have done that at some point when he decided to do this, but that many times going to gay bars and having friends in the gay community to me doesn't indicate that it was just scouting. So his ex-wife made some statements about his interest in the gay lifestyle, and that he felt strongly about it, but that she had no indications that he was gay. So that's where it is right now.
Mm-hmm. So we're following up on that. All right, let's go to our next question. It's from, again, from Facebook. It's from Joanna Briley. There are rumors that there were more than one shooter. Any truth to that? From Brooklyn, New York, my deepest condolences to everyone. And Stephanie, I know this was something that we saw popping up a lot right after the shooting and all day Monday, and the Orlando police addressed this, I believe.
Yeah, this has come up many, many times, and the Orlando police have put this on Twitter so many times I don't even know how to count them. And they're saying that no, there was no other shooters inside that club with him. He was the only shooter in the club. Now the FBI has another investigation going on right now for maybe any accomplices before he went in, if anything happened like that, but Orlando police is saying that he is the only person who is in that club shooting.
And that might be part of some of the confusion. There's been some reports that there may be another arrest imminent, but as far as I know, it had nothing to do with another shooter. It would only be someone who knew of this or was an accomplice.
Yeah,
in some
and the
way.
FBI is saying that anyone else who is out there isn't a threat to society right now. So there's OPD saying that no one else was in there shooting.
Right. And they're pretty emphatic about that.
Yes.
Yeah, there was also some people were also saying that I'm not going to say it was rumor. I've seen people saying that they thought there was someone holding the door closed. That is something that I've actually heard in other horrific crisis moments where perhaps people's perception of what happened wasn't exactly accurate, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know whether anybody can shed any light on that, but
I know some of the witnesses have told our other reporters that they might have saw someone else shooting, but you got to remember too that this is a club at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that was going for last call.
Yeah.
And it's a very stressful situation. So sometimes things immediately after might seem reality, but might change. And this is any stressful situation that happens.
Definitely. I mean, that would be trying to remember something with all that going on. It would be pretty tough. All right, let's get to our next Facebook question. It's from Belinda Martha Isabel. Again, sorry if I mispronounced your name. How could he enter a gun-free environment all loaded with weapons? And Stephanie, I think you almost kind of talked about that a little bit with this chaotic situation going on at last call.
Yeah, and so they're not exactly sure, and we've had some other reporters working on stories about this, on the security of these clubs, because we've had a couple different nightclub shootings in Orange County and Orlando this year. And so we're really taking a look at the security aspects here, and we don't have many details on what kind of security they had at the door. And just wondering exactly how he got such a big rifle into this club past the OPD officer. If the OPD officer was at the door, we don't even know. We're not exactly sure where everyone was at, and hopefully that will come out in the investigation.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Let's go to one more we have from Facebook. It's from Daisy Lee Myers. And Daisy's question is, will the killer's wife be arrested as an accomplice? She knowingly knew he was seeking out sites to commit a savage crime. And Paul and Stephanie, or Paul, you want to take that one?
Yeah, the reports that I've seen on this are that she tried to discourage him from thinking about or planning a mass shooting. It's not exactly the same thing as knowing that he was going to go do it. But obviously, most people in this world, if their spouse was planning a savage attack, shooting multiple victims, that would be something that you would report to mental health counselors or something like that. I don't know what it says about, you know, the environment or the mindset of these people. Obviously, it's clearly disturbed if that, you know, if. But my understanding is again that she knew that he was angry, possibly wanted to shoot people, and was trying to discourage him from doing that. That's so.
Right.
I don't know that that actually would be ground for arrest as an accomplice.
Right, and we may find out more about that later today. Now we've got a couple of questions as well. We have one that just came in from Johnny Mari Guzman. How can a place like Pulse have one entrance and the same use as exit? So entrance and exit. And you know, we had a graphic in the Orlando Sentinel this morning that kind of showed the layout of the nightclub. So it was kind of interesting to see this, but apparently, I mean, the police had to break through the wall to kind of get to this because what are the entrances like at this place? Have you guys had a chance to look at it or see it?
I mean, they have two doors from what I could see just from the scene. They have the two front doors right next to each other, and then they also have an emergency door on the side, I believe, I think.
And there is a patio door.
and then the patio door, and I heard witnesses saying that they broke down the patio fence to get out.
Yeah, you would know better than I. I was there. I was there once, and I remember the patio door. I don't remember specifically whether there were other doors.
Right, doing that. And that's kind of like our next question as well from JJ Page, who's asking, why weren't people escaping through the fire exits or back doors? And that kind of gets to what you guys were talking about.
I read one witness report that said they got people to that back emergency exit, and it had some kind of latch on it. And for a little bit, people were confused as to how to open the emergency exit, maybe. So it took them a little bit, but they did end up opening that emergency exit door. And people were running out the patio and breaking down that fence and going out the front door and basically just wherever they could get out is what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have another question as well related to Pulse itself from Allison Holder Pasilier. I can apologize for the name. How many people were trapped inside as hostages in both bathrooms? Do we have that number yet? I know we've kind of tried to get that.
Orlando police said that he had about a handful, 4 to 5 people in one of the bathrooms with him. And if you look at the map, there's like 2 bathrooms next to each other. And he had 4 to 5 people in one of the bathrooms with him. And then there was like 15, maybe more people in the opposing bathroom hiding. And that's the bathroom that police actually busted the wall out and got people to come out of that bathroom. So the one that was where the majority of the people were hiding. Mm-hmm. But there were some in another bathroom with him. So I think that's a little bit of a confusing thing.
Great. And we are getting more questions as the live stream's going on, and we thank you for those, and we're going to try and get to those as well. Philip Booth wants to know, were any UCF students or professors among those killed or injured? And I believe we got that information today confirmed.
There
were 2, I believe UCF announced 2 students were killed, and I think there were also Valencia College sent out.
7 Valencia students,
right.
And I think 4 from another college over on Summeron, but I cannot think of the name right now.
Okay, and we'll get with that information will be on OrlandoSentinel.com. We'll make sure we get that up for you so you can see that. Also, another question from Philip Booth. Was his son, this is referring to the shooter, I believe, was his son living with him or his ex-wife? Do we know that information yet? I'm not sure.
I do not have that information.
Okay.
I don't either.
Okay, we'll add that to the list of questions we want to know. And I have a question of my own I'd like to ask Nasim, if possible, about, you were down at ORMC today, and I know, how are the doctors and the nurses and the medical people, how are they dealing with having to cope with this tragedy as well? I heard there was a report that they're bringing in counselors just for them there.
I asked that question, and I'm sorry. They they, a lot of them say they were in the action mode. And they say they have set up counseling for them, so a lot of them can talk this out and discuss this with each other. But you could tell definitely a lot of them were still emotional, especially since a lot of them are getting, now that they're getting tired as time goes by. I was talking to the hospital CEO, and he said he has had only 2 hours of sleep. And I'm sure it's the same. The same is true for a lot of these surgeons who have been working on this. But they said they try to talk about it in the hospital, outside with their coworkers. But one of the trauma surgeons who was the doctor on call that night, he said, yesterday he was walking out and he saw the staff walking in crying, and it's just that it's very emotional for them.
It's emotional for all of us, and it may be against work rules, but I'm giving you a hug right now.
Oh,
'cause I know
thank you. I appreciate
because
it.
it's tough on everybody at this point
thank
too
you.
as well. All right, gang, we'll still keep covering this story because the community is expecting news out of us, and we appreciate you coming to OrlandoSentinel.com. We are committed to covering this story. We're covering the victims. We want their stories told. We're committed to getting you the latest information about this, and also as our community recovers and comes together after this tragedy, because Orlando will come together. We are Orlando United. So for now, I'm Roger Simmons, OrlandoSentinel.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.